Welcome to Simply Pickleball, the podcast where we discuss all things pickleball, the fastest growing sport in America and around the world. We're interviewing the founders, industry leaders, athletes, lovers of the sport that are driving this spectacular growth. If you love pickleball as much as we do, listen in. Hi, I'm Crystal Brown, your host, and we get a chance today to speak with Matt Besler, who is a former Major League Soccer player and now has joined the leadership team at Chicken N Pickle. We get to hear about the future of that company, his path to becoming a pickleball player, and hanging up his cleats. So now to the show.
News in the Major League Soccer world today as Matt Besler announces his retirement.
Soccer will always be a part of my life. But I'm looking forward to the next adventure, to the next challenge, the next test, and to my next team.
Pumped to officially be a part of the Chicken N Pickle team. Let's get back to work. Stay tuned.
Matt Besler, I'm so excited to have the time to sit down with you and talk about all things pickleball, which I love. But before we get started on that, I just wanted to hear a little bit more about you, your background, your story, and in particular, you've been an athlete your whole life. So did you grow up with a soccer ball, in your hands from age 2, or what was it like?
Thanks for having me on. I'm really excited to share, my story and share a little bit about the pickleball world. From what I can remember with the ball in my hand at all times, I was one of those, I guess, stereotypical boys who just loved running around and kicking balls and throwing everything. My parents signed me up for, I guess, organized sports at a very young age, if you want to call it that. But as young as I could remember, 4 years old, 5 years old, I started playing sports. Specifically, I started playing soccer at that age too. And they didn't really know much about the game, but it was sort of the popular thing to sign your kid up for in the area that I was living at the time in Overland Park, Kansas. And I guess the rest is history. But yeah, I started playing soccer when I was 4 or 5. I played a bunch of other sports growing up as a kid. Times were different back then. I'm going to sound old. You didn't really have to specify or specialize in a sport at such a young age. And so I loved that. I got to kind of play soccer in the fall and basketball in the winter and baseball in the summer. And there was not really pressure to focus on one sport. I didn't necessarily focus on soccer until my junior or senior year of high school.
Oh, wow.
That is when I told myself that I wanted to earn a college scholarship to play soccer in college. And so I set out to do that. Played at the University of Notre Dame for 4 years, played college soccer. I got drafted into Major League Soccer by Sporting Kansas City, which ended up being my hometown team. I'm from Kansas City. Played 12 professional seasons with them and then finished my career for 1 season down in Austin, Texas. I've been retired from playing soccer for about a year and a half.
So when you were in college, did you have your sights set on playing professionally, or were you just enjoying college, or did you kind of know that was where you were headed?
It's easy for me to say now that oh yeah, of course I knew, but I didn't. I went to college again to, on a college scholarship to get an education, to get the experience of playing a sport in college. Anything above that was sort of a cherry on top. Realized with the help of my college coach, he sort of pulled me aside one summer in between my sophomore and junior year. And he said, I don't know if you realize this, but if you continue progressing the way you are, I think you're going to have a really good chance at playing professionally. And that's sort of when my eyes lit up. Said, really? Okay, let's go after it.
I mean, but honestly, were you really surprised? I mean, I'm curious because, I know some professional athletes and they've all had really interesting paths to get there. But did you kind of know inside, I think I'm pretty good, or did you really need that sort of external validation? I think I can do this.
You're probably right. I think I was confident in the abilities that I had, but I also, I don't know, I was sort of protective and scared to maybe admit that. I wanted to sort of be well, maybe if it works out, and I really want to focus on my education. And that was maybe my defense mechanism. Versus some of my other teammates that came in, saying oh, I'm going pro or bust. like I'm going to be the next professional and this is why I'm here. I guess I was never like that.
When you were playing as a pro, were you feeling like this, like, how did you see that career going in terms of like, were you feeling like you were giving up on other parts of your life, or were you just enjoying the ride and loving being part of a team like that and getting to go to the World Cup, things like that? Not very many people get to do.
Yeah. So that's another great question. So just to like rewind a little bit, I do remember that period of my life was very challenging because like my senior year of college and sort of my first entry into the professional game, because I was trying to balance what felt like two different lives. A lot of my peers and my friends were, doing internships and applying for jobs and working on their resumes. And I sort of felt like I was focusing on becoming a professional soccer player and I was getting left behind. Mm-hmm. And it was like, well, what if I don't make it? I'm not going to have that internship and I'm going to be, just behind. And it was very stressful for me. And finally, I remember luckily reaching out, and I had a great conversation with my parents who were helped mentor me through this process. And they kind of just told me, they go, Matt, you've loved sports your entire life. And even if you have a percentage of 1% a chance to go and play a professional sport, why wouldn't you just fully commit to that? You can always go back and get that job or finish your degree or apply for medical school or whatever it is you want to do. There's not many people that get that chance. And so maybe I just needed their sort of nudge and their approval. But once they told me that, it was like the light bulbs went off and I all of a sudden just like dove all in. But even after I got drafted, first couple of years in the league, I was kind of just viewing it as, if this works out, great. If it doesn't, then I will have played for a couple of years. I don't think I realized that I was making a career out of professional soccer until about my 5th or 6th season in the league.
Wow, that's so interesting and great for your parents. I mean, to sort of free you up from feeling any kind of burden, like maybe you're taking the wrong path. And it's true. It's a really unique opportunity that not very many people get. Speaking of that, though, you do have a sibling or at least you have 2 siblings, right? And at least one of them was a professional or is a professional soccer player. So were you guys competitive? Well, were you guys sort of competitive growing up?
Doing your research. I love it.
Well, I like to know who I'm talking to. And, but just, I have 3 daughters. You have 3 kids. What was it? Were you guys competitive as kids and were they, your biggest supporters once you were in the league? And, how's that relationship been since then?
Yeah. So I'm the oldest. I've got 2 younger brothers. So we had 3 boys in our family. We were all super competitive.
With each other or with everybody?
Yeah, we would everybody, but mostly with each other, and, holes in the walls and throwing golf clubs at each other and stitches and all of those things. There's some great stories. We're all 3 years apart. So my youngest brother is 6 years younger than I am. His name is Nick. And he went on to become a professional soccer player as well. 6 years is a lot. That's a pretty big gap. And so when we were growing up, he was the baby brother. I never really competed against him or with him just because he was so much younger than I was. And then we have a middle brother, Mike, who's exactly in between us. He was a great athlete. He didn't play soccer in high school, but he was a really good football and basketball player. So that was really fun for us to kind of get away from the soccer and just see a different sport. And he had some incredible accomplishments as well. But I did get to play against Nick, my youngest brother, a couple times towards the end of my career. And it was just weird. I'm sure it was bizarre for my parents too, in the stands. And they had one of those like split jerseys where they had half was my jersey, half was Nick's jersey. So I know it was a lot of fun.
That's so cool. Yeah, that's got to be amazing as a parent. And now you're a parent to watch your kids and see them compete. Sort of back to that, I think you have to have a competitive spirit and a drive and commitment to be a professional athlete. And I think that kind of discipline translates to business too. And so it was probably really good for you. So tell me about the sort of ending your stint there, I would say, or it's not ending your career, but when you decided to leave the league and maybe transition to some other things, what helped you steer that decision?
Yeah, so I retired from playing soccer just before my 35th birthday. I know I look young, but I'm 36 years old. I played for as long as I could, and that's just the reality of it. I could have maybe played for another year or two, but I was definitely at the end of my threshold in terms of my mental side and my physical side. My body started breaking down. So that was why I stopped playing. That's why I retired. It was just that my body couldn't keep up anymore. To be honest with you, my plan all along was I kind of built it up in my head that I'm going to be done playing. I'm going to take a full year off, just to like chill out, to relax, maybe like play some golf, the stories that like all these athletes you hear about. And I'm just going to take my time. I'm not going to dive into anything. And so that's kind of what I had built up in my head the last couple of years of my career. Did that for a couple months. It was really nice just to turn it off. And mentally, it was very freeing. And there was a lot less stress, which was really nice. But my body ended up recovering a lot quicker than I thought it was going to because I didn't have those stresses. Yeah. And about 2 or 3 months in, I started getting the itch to, do something rewarding or competitive or engaging. And so I went out to lunch with a guy named Dave Johnson. He was the owner of Chicken N Pickle and the founder of Chicken N Pickle. It's a guy that I knew a couple times from previous engagements. I did some charity stuff with him when I used to play soccer. And I thought I was going out to eat lunch. I said, you know what, it's a good networking opportunity just to catch up with them. Maybe I'll use it down the road. And I sat down and it like quickly went from 0 to 100, like right away. And that's his personality. And it turned into like a job interview. I don't care that you don't know anything about this business or pickleball or whatever. I know you as a person. I know you're competitive. I know you're a former athlete. Like, I just want to hire good people. And I can teach you everything you need to know. So he's like, what do you say? I'm like, long story long. I thought about it. I talked about it with my wife and I go, you know what, this sounds crazy, but the more I think about it, I think it could be a really unique, invaluable opportunity for me. Definitely not something that I thought I was going to be doing at any point in my life, working for a pickleball company. I'm really glad that I took the chance. So I called him back. I said, you know what? I think I will. I'm going to join with you. And that was about a year and a half ago.
So you knew him. You guys had done work or just cross paths in their charity life, which is awesome. But you must have thought that he was a good person that he also was competitive in business and had a good sense. Did you kind of know that he had a career path that you wanted to, I want to say, sort of jump on his bandwagon if you felt like confident to put your reputation and your career and your life journey onto what he had already put together?
Yeah, I mean, he has a reputation around Kansas City where I live as a successful business person. And so his background is in real estate. He's been doing that for a number of years. And so, I knew about him. The other person that I want to just mention is her name's Kelly Aldridge. Kelly Aldridge is currently the president of Chicken N Pickle, and she is my direct boss and who I work very closely with. She was a major factor, maybe if not more than Dave was, in my decision to join Chicken N Pickle. She's an incredible leader. Her passion and energy for anything that she does, specifically Chicken N Pickle, is contagious. And so I kind of saw that opportunity too, to learn from her, the way that she sees things, for just like the personal development side. And that really helped me make the decision too.
So you hadn't played pickleball though before you started?
I played pickleball one time. It was in middle school PE class. It was a unit that we did for a couple weeks is all. But up until then, I had not played any pickleball.
And how about now? Are you playing pretty often?
Gosh, not as much as I want to, which I think is probably a popular answer for a lot of people. When I first started with Chicken N Pickle, I felt like I played quite a bit because I really wanted to learn the game and the rules and get a feel for it and at least get myself to a level that was respectable because I knew I was going to put my Matt Besler. Now, gosh, honestly, the last 6 months, it's a very busy time at the company, and I don't get to play as much as maybe people would think, or definitely not as much as I want to.
Yeah, I think you're right. Nobody is playing as much as they want. I don't think, even the pros. Okay, so let's transition into Chicken and Pickle. What, the company is building a name. First of all, there are never enough courts anywhere for anyone to play, so that solves one of the problems. But how did they get started, and where are they now? What's the vision? Love to hear about sort of what they're doing and what they're bringing, and then we can maybe get into some of the community involvement.
Yeah, so it started almost 8 years ago, and it was the idea of our founder and owner, Dave Johnson, who I had talked about before. He took a trip out to Phoenix, Arizona, to visit some of his best friends, and they went out and played pickleball. He'd never heard of it before, he'd never seen it, and he was just mesmerized by the fact that it was a social game. Within 2 hours, he had met and played with over 20 different people, and he had engaged with them, and everybody was having fun. It was active, but it wasn't like anything crazy on his body. And after he finished playing that first time, he goes, "Oh my God, I've got to bring this sport and this concept and this idea back to Kansas City." The name Chicken and Pickle, the chicken part comes from the inspiration. Dave used to, or still does, vacation down in the Cayman Islands. His favorite restaurant down in the Cayman Islands is a place called Chicken. It features like Caribbean, rotisserie. And so he's like that, combining it with pickleball. So we're 8 years in. The original location opened in North Kansas City. That's where Dave's from. We now currently have 8 locations that are open and operating. We've announced 14 total locations. I would say in the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to grow probably and open up at least 5 or 6 more. I don't know where it's going to stop, when it's going to stop, but I do know that there's a lot of excitement, and we're going to be reaching a lot of new markets here in the next couple of years.
What's the sort of typical person who goes to Chicken and Pickle, right? Like, who would you say your typical customer is? And I know in different cities it might be different, but just curious.
Yeah. The interesting thing, and this is coming from somebody that works at Chicken and Pickle, it is a really hard place to describe, because for one, the name, when you say Chicken and Pickle, they're like, chicken and what? Like, pickle? Oh, what is this? And so you describe the place and you say it's this pickleball facility, but it's got a restaurant built in, it's game yard, it's got beer gardens, it's got a rooftop, it's got a Be Amazing room, it's got ping pong, and you just on and on. They're like, it's just a hard concept to grasp. But as soon as you see it in person, it's incredible to watch people's reactions, because they go, "Oh, wow, like, yeah, okay, I get it now. I can see why this is such a fun place to go to." That is a tough question, and that's also the beauty of Chicken and Pickle. On any given day, you can go onto the property and you can see people that are there that play pickleball 5 times a week, or you could see people that are there playing pickleball for the very first time. And you can see people that are dressed out in athletic clothes, and they've got their goggles and their wristbands, and they're ready to go. And then you also see people in business casual clothes that are taking their lunch break, or they're having a meeting, and they're all hopping on the pickleball court, in their dress clothes, having fun. So it's just a huge spectrum of people, which I think makes it very unique.
That's great. I mean, I think that sort of describes how many different types of people play pickleball to begin with. But I mean, do you think it's the kind of place that, eventually you'll have in every city, and everyone will know what it is, that, it brings together everyone in this, a really special sport that everyone can play? But do you feel like this is the kind of place that everyone will know, sort of like everyone will know about Starbucks and McDonald's, and everyone's going to know about Chicken and Pickle because it's going to be in every city and maybe across the globe?
That's a great question. And that's probably a question that's more on our real estate side in our business development. I know that we are looking anywhere and everywhere. And I can't tell you how many times per day somebody asks, like, when are you coming to San Francisco? That's where you're based out of. When are you going to California? When are you going to Florida? Yeah. And it's like, we're trying. We're actively looking. There's just a lot that goes into deals. A lot of these are real estate plays. And so there's just a lot of factors. They're also big. They're big properties. It takes a lot of land to build a Chicken and Pickle. and land is expensive. So,
right. How many courts generally does each one have? Like, about how big is it? I mean, what else can you do there? And there's did you say there's 12 courts or?
Yeah, typically our models have 12 pickleball courts, but the footprint is about 3 acres. So it's a big property. Usually 6 indoor courts. Those are fully covered, air conditioned, and then there's 6 outdoor courts. Most of those are covered outdoor courts. There's some of our properties that have 4 covered courts and 2 uncovered courts. Mm-hmm. So the covered courts would be, just a big metal awning that covers the court, so you're shaded, but it's open and so has the breeze that goes through. The game yard is a big turfed area that has a bunch of activities for people. It's got the cornhole or bags or whatever people call it, the life-size Jenga, Battleship, a bunch of other just yard games. And then we've got a kind of an indoor event space that you can open up the windows out to the open that has, foosball, ping pong, a bunch of couches, big screen TVs. It's got a built-in bar there.
It sounds really fun. I want to go right now. So, when I first heard about Chicken N Pickle, I think I was down in Las Vegas and they mentioned that there was going to be one coming, and I'm curious about, you guys mentioned sort of community involvement and which communities you're going into, and how do the founders and president, what's their goal with where they've picked to be, how they want to get involved with the community, how they're marketing it, because like you said, you got to kind of get the word out. Mm-hmm. I know that's a long question, but any part of that's I'm curious about.
The community is really our heart and soul. One of our mottos at the company is our hearts are local. There's a ton of stuff that happened with COVID, right? But one of the things in our world is that people were searching and craving for a place to go where they could connect and they could gather again and socially connect with people. And that is what we are built on. At Chicken N Pickle, you walk onto our properties and people put their phones away. In case people don't know, it's hard to play pickleball like when you're looking at your phone. So you can't. So it's a place that you go, you just put your phone down for an hour and you're on the pickleball courts and you're playing and you're socializing, and afterwards, you go grab a bite to eat or you get a drink or whatever the case is. And it's just really fun. And you spend an hour or two just almost disconnecting from the technology world. And it's something that we've all missed. And people have realized it, like, gosh, we are all craving this human interaction and this gathering space. And so I think, some of it's probably luck, but really that's kind of what Chicken N Pickle was made off of. But specifically with the community organizations, a credit to Kelly Aldridge, our president. That is really one of her passions and her vision, and her passion is what drives everybody else in the company. We just spend a lot of time focusing on how we can give back to our local communities.
I do think this emphasis on community and connection, I saw an article a few months ago that said, can pickleball save America? And, for some friends of mine, we play a lot and we're like, yes, it can, because it's not about pickleball. It's a vehicle for this connection, and it's a vehicle for community building that maybe we've been missing. And, companies like Chicken N Pickle, I think, obviously it's a business, but it has, like you said, more of a heart and bringing together people for a good purpose.
Did you see the article about pickleball saved my marriage? It was it was sort of the same thing. Like this couple, they were maybe having some issues or some communication stuff, and they started playing pickleball together. And it literally saved their marriage. And it's, to your point, it's all about the connection that pickleball gives you.
Yeah. And it's interesting that it's a sport, right? Because, I was a college athlete. You were much more than a college athlete, professional athlete. But for me, it gave me purpose and direction and motivation. And I had to apply all those things. And funny enough, later in life, I feel like I'm very competitive in pickleball. I want to be good. I want to get better. I want to improve. And I feel like for a lot of people, it gives them that same, maybe they had it when they were younger, maybe they didn't, but that kind of connection into, something to work for, something to work each day and get better. Then it's kind of fun when you can go someplace and sort of play with your friends, but feel like maybe they're on their lunch break and everyone's like, wow, so-and-so's really good.
No, totally. I think you're spot on. I completely agree with you. And the other thing too is I think the entry level into pickleball is lower than other sports, which I think is a good thing. It's less intimidating where, if you tell somebody that's never played golf to go out and go on a golf course, they're going to be like, no, I'm not going to have fun. It's too hard and I'm not going to enjoy myself. Pickleball is the opposite of that.
I think you're right. I think the barrier entry is low, and we've been talking about that with some of the other interviews I've had. In fact, I was interviewing someone, Wayne Dollard, who leads Level Up Pickleball Camp. By the way, he mentioned that soccer players make really good pickleball players. He specifically said that. And that's because your footwork. So maybe this is your next career on the pro side. But ultimately that, like you said, golf or tennis, or there's a lot of sports that just are very intimidating, and pickleball is not intimidating. And I think, again, back to Chicken N Pickle, then when you have maybe a work event and someone wants to, bring their work friends together, it's not as intimidating as maybe, a foursome going to play golf and feeling excluded. This is very inclusive, I'd imagine.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think that's some of the beauty of it. It's when you break it down, it's kind of a simple concept. It's a wooden paddle, a plastic wiffle ball, and you throw in some chicken and some beer. And it's like, that's maybe what people need, sometimes with this crazy world that we live in, and it's so fast, but like, let's slow down a little bit and simplify things. And people really like to do that. Yeah. And it's caught on like crazy. So it's been fun to watch.
So for you, what things are you responsible for, and what are you kind of working on for Chicken N Pickle next?
Yeah, so my title at Chicken N Pickle is the Director of Strategic Partnerships. We've established a partnership team company-wide that focuses specifically on each location. Each location is different, like we talked about. Everybody has a different, heart and soul, and each market is different. And we want to cater to those things because we want to be local as much as we can. But the fun part about my job is we get to go out into these communities and figure out creative and unique ways to partner with companies, brands, individuals, sports teams, school districts, colleges, universities, you name it. We get to figure out like how can we get involved with them? How can they get involved with us? And it's kind of like a puzzle that we put together of, this company wants to come out and have a company outing, and this company wants to do a pickleball league, and this university wants us to come out and play pickleball on their campus. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of different things that we can do. And I wake up every morning and it's just something different, which I love. It was challenging at first. I'm not going to lie. It was a little crazy. I was like, oh my gosh, my head is spinning right now. But I've gotten the hang of it. I've settled in, and I'm really enjoying myself, and I'm learning a lot. That's like the biggest thing too, is like I'm still just learning about this world and the business world and emails. Like emails, another thing that has blown my mind. Holy cow. People send so many emails, which was not the case as a soccer player. So that was new.
Oh, that's interesting. I know I take that for granted. I think I looked at my inbox at one point. It had a couple 100,000 that I hadn't opened, which is very annoying to other people. But yeah, I think that's also inspiring and challenging is, whether you're learning pickleball or whether you're learning in the business world, whether you're trying to imagine the best partnerships or the growth pattern, that's part of the game. That's what keeps us young. That's what keeps us enthusiastic and excited is the challenge. Like there's not a clear path of, like you said, there's some ideas about what Chicken N Pickle might do or what you might do with the company, but really they're all sort of hypotheses you have to prove out. So it'll be really fun to see what's coming next. And thank you for sharing your story and Chicken N Pickle story, and really just excited to see its growth. Of course, would love if you would come to California, but I'll just have to make my way to where the Chicken N Pickles are. It's fine with me. It's warmer there anyway.
Yeah, no, if we ever make it out there, you will be one of the first people to know. I will call you or text you. But if you're ever in a city that has a Chicken N Pickle, you got to reach out. We'd love to have you come
Love
check
it.
one out and we'll take care of you.
All right. Well, Matt, it was so great to hear about your story. And I really wish you and the company so much luck, and just really excited to see the growth in this crazy sport that's just taken off. It's so much fun. So thank you.
Well, yeah, thank you for the kind words and thanks for having me on. I enjoyed it.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to Simply Pickleball. We will be back very soon with great interviews, discussions, and more, all about pickleball. Don't forget to subscribe to our channels on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, or any of your favorite podcasting outlets. Until next time, happy dinking.